Hi, it's me again with Corel Tips and Tricks, and this is part 2 of this series. I'm going to try to make it quicker. A couple of things we've learned since the first video is the numbers can be really big because he sent me a picture of what he's trying to do, and this is like a 4x pallet container, pretty cool. So it makes a little more sense that empty weight's 800 pounds, 5,000 pounds, but actually the new one is 9,700. So I've already done it, but one thing I've done, I've changed your table size to 48 by 48. You need to do that if you're a plasma cutter. He asked it because, he had it an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. This way you can kind of tell this might be a little bit big. So I'm actually going to hit P and put it in the center of the page. One thing about plasma cutting, I'm going to get rid of all this. After you've done, hit F4 on your keyboard. All we can see is what we're working on. If by chance you happen to draw something up there and forgot about it, and you zoom in here on this and you hit F4, that's going to show up. So make sure that's a no-no in plasma cutting. The machine will actually try to go off the page and cut it. He asked me what font. Arial works fine. It doesn't really matter because the letters are big enough. You could play around with, that's going to match your container a little bit better. And, Arial black will work. But since the letters are big enough, we're just going to go with Arial black. But I'm going to left click, right click. And we're going to go and we want to break all the letters apart. So I'm going to go Control K. Control K, Control K. I'm going to do that on every set of letters that are joined together. And there's a reason for this. Control K is going to break up the sentence. Control K is going to break up the word. Control K is going to break up the word. Control K is going to break up all the letters. Control K, Control K, Control K. Don't really have to probably on those letters. But we want separate letters. And here's why. Because we need to make this into a cut file that has stencil type fonts. So we need at least 1/4 inch between the cut. So we're going to 0.25. Then we're going to make this longer. And we're going to make quite a few copies because we're going to need them all. And just in case you forget, you can always get the 1/4 inch. Now, if you look, this letter might cause this problem because we broke it apart. So we're going to try this first. We can actually go CE, the letter C, the letter E, and that's not what we want. You never really know that's what we want. Now, the advantage of doing this is that we can hold down the shift and make a box around that. The box is selected so we can nudge it out of the way. Take our number and move it out of the way. Take your box and nudge it back. Grab that one, hit the plus on your keyboard, and then hit the shift key when you select both CE. So now you've made both those, and they're identical and they're identically spaced apart. Same thing here. Control G to group these together. Control G to group these together, and then the shift key to double click on the box, rectangle tool. Just delete all these, move this back, hit the plus key on your keyboard, hit the shift key to select them both, EC. Now you've done 4 letters that fast. Now the H, there's 2 ways you can, if you want this at the angle. Probably the easiest would be to just have it snap to there or get it close. Double click on your pen rotation and move it to that corner and then just rotate it around till it's in line. I say there's 2 ways. The other way you could literally find out the angle. See, you never know what's on top. But there, now we've got that one done. Pick that one, hold down the shift, double click on the pin, rectangle tool, nudge out of the way. And the reason I'm nudging is because it's a lot easier to pick. Hit the plus key, shift, EC or CE, it doesn't matter which one you do first. Just do that through all the letters. You know, now one thing with plasma cutting, if we look real close at this A and we break it into a curve, well, if this was aerial, you would have some slope here. Let me just type out a aerial A. That's an aerial A. If we left click, you got to select it. Left click, right click. And if you look at aerial A, and we have to convert it to a curve, see the slope and extra nodes? Delete those nodes. Take those 3 nodes, right click, turn them into a line, and you have less nodes. Thankfully, aerial black doesn't have that. But in case you're going to use the aerial. Now remember we made copies of these? And here's why. We're going to take this letter and just put it right there. And I would suggest every time go EC and then move this down, holding the control button, and it's perfectly centered. Now you don't know which one's on top, and we picked the wrong one. And if I'm going to show in the next one why that is. So, or what I mean by what's on top. Let's make a duplicate of this and move it over. So now we're going to take this one and we're just going to put it like right there, and we're going to put this one right here. Now, I'm going to try and think it's back minus front, and it is. But I don't know that on this. Well, I know it now, but if I went here and went to object and order and put it in the back of page, I'm going to use the same weld, but look, well, it worked. It just depends on, in the cut order, which one's on top. Let's actually go here, go to object, order, put that in the back of the page. Shouldn't make any difference. It should not work. That's what I mean. You never know which one's on top, so it's easy enough just to take the other one. And then, same thing here. You've already got that A there, and the A looks pretty good because it looks like an arrow. Take that one, hold down the shift, double click, move that out of the way. And the reason I moved it out of the way, because now I can just hit the A, move that back. I'm just using my arrow keys, hit the plus key, hold down the shift, EC, and you're done with the A's. All you have to do is the other letters, and you should be good to go. Just don't, well, one more, let's do one more letter, because this one's way down here. Hold down the shift and double click on the rectangle tool. Move that over, get rid of that. And I would suggest moving it back. You could actually put it in there. Plus key, shift key, EC, and then get rid of that. The ones don't need it. He did ask what font works the best. We're gonna have to take these 3 letters and convert them to a curve to look at the nodes. These particular ones have a little bit of a curve to them, so it doesn't need that node. Doesn't need that node, doesn't need that node, doesn't need that node, doesn't need that node. The least amount of nodes you have, the better. You know, let's just turn everything into a curve and look at, and you can go Control Q and break everything into a curve. Let's look at the T. Can't get any better than that. The A, every node has to be there. Doesn't need anything else. The R, you know, look at this. Let's get rid of that node. Get rid of those 2 nodes. We could actually try that node. It messed up the R a little bit, but who's gonna know? You know, unless you're trying to duplicate somebody's logo, we're just cutting them into the side of a container for marking. You know, but you always kind of want to be where you can see the whole letter to see if it's messing up anything. But plasma cutting, nodes are bad. The least amount of nodes you have, the better. I was just going to show, let's do the S. One thing you can do with the S, if we select it all, there are 29 nodes. Go right up here and hit 5. I wouldn't go any more than 5 and enter. We reduced it to 15 nodes, over half the nodes, and we could still delete a few. And what I mean by plasma cutting is bad. A laser does it too, but a laser isn't as hot. It's going to go from that node to that node, and for a split millisecond, it's going to slow down or stop till it gets the signal to the next node. And when you're burning through metal, if it's not moving, it's burning a hole. I think everything else is good. There's a, this has a lot of nodes close to close, but you can't do any more about it. In this particular case, you don't have to do both like we did. And if you ever wanted to change that, let me zoom in here, change this really easily by just selecting that node, hold down the shift and select that node and just bring those nodes over there. Use your smart fill tool to fill that in. And then that's all you need. And it might even look better, but I would smart fill it to make sure, because if you don't smart fill it, you're going to have possible extra nodes or pieces. And then you can always nudge it right back and left click, right click. And if you do everything in red, that signifies a cut line that you've checked it. Your plasma cutter needs hairlines before you turn it to a DXF. And then I think his original question, go to File, Export it, wherever you're going to put it in pictures, go right here and export it as a DXF and then hit Export. It's going to ask you, and this all depends on your version of your plasma table, curves over Texas. This I've never found makes a difference, but you need to save it in your what version. There's a different bunch of versions of your DWG account. I'm not going to save it because I don't want this. But anyway, I hope that answered some more of his questions, and thank you for watching.